You know that feeling, right? You're walking outside, maybe in a park or a forest, and you hear this absolutely beautiful, complex bird song, but you have no idea what kind of bird is making that incredible sound. Well, it's a common mystery, and today we're going to give you the tools to solve it.
Yeah, that's the question that always gets us. You hear that melody floating through the trees, and you just can't help but wonder, who is singing that? This whole explainer is really your first step to becoming a sound detective for the world right outside your window.
So let's have some fun with this and treat it like a game. We can call it the Bird Song Challenge. And hey, don't worry. Whether you're already a big-time bird watcher or you're just a little curious about the sounds you hear every day, this is for you. We're going to take that simple little question, whose song is that, and turn it into a genuine game of discovery. All you need are your ears and, a little bit of curiosity. So you ready to play?
Okay, every good game has some rules, and rule number 1 in our challenge is pretty simple. You've got to understand that birds basically have 2 main ways of making sounds. This is the absolute foundation for everything else we're going to talk about.
That's right. It turns out that bird sounds aren't all just random chirps. Scientists actually break them down into 2 main categories. And once you know the difference between them, you are already well on your way to becoming a fantastic listener.
And here they are. The easiest way to think about it is this. One type of sound is for, let's say, romance and real estate, and the other is for just everyday conversation. The first one is what we call a song. That's the complex, beautiful melody you hear. In Japanese, it's called saizuri, and it's mostly the males using it to claim their territory and, of course, attract a mate. The other one is the call, or janaki. These are much shorter, simpler sounds for things like, hey, there's a hawk, or just, I'm over here.
Okay, so you've got rule number 1 down. Now it's time for a little practice round. Let's sharpen those listening skills before you actually head out into the wild. Seriously, think about it for a second. If you had to describe a sound you heard to somebody else, what words would you even use? What are the key ingredients that make each and every bird song unique?
You'd probably land on these 4 things, right? First up, pitch. Is it a really high-pitched tweet or more of a low coo? Second is rhythm. Is it super fast, like a trill, or is it a slow, deliberate whistle? Third, repetition. Does it sing the same little phrase over and over again? And finally, vocal quality. Is the sound really clear, almost like a flute, or is it kind of buzzy and raspy? These are your main detective clues. And some birds combine these elements so perfectly that their song basically becomes the soundtrack for a season. You hear one very specific call, and you just know that spring is finally here. It's like nature has its own calendar, and it's written in music.
This is honestly the perfect way to think about what we're doing. Imagine you're at a loud party. At first, it's just a wall of noise. But if you focus, you can pick out your friend's voice from across the room. Learning bird songs is the exact same skill. You're just tuning your ear to pick out one specific voice from the whole chorus. But what if I told you we've only been scratching the surface here? Because these songs and calls, they aren't just pretty sounds. Nope. They are a complex language, and they're packed with information that is absolutely vital for a bird's survival.
A bird is almost always singing for a very specific reason. If you look at this breakdown, the biggest reasons are defending territory, that's about 35%, and attracting a partner at 30%. But they also have specific alarm calls for predators, that's 20% of the time, and even softer little chirps just for talking with family, which makes up the rest. It's an incredibly rich and functional language.
And get this, the context matters a lot. The very same bird might have a specific song it loves to belt out in the morning and then a totally different set of calls it uses in the evening. It really all depends on what it needs to say and when it needs to say it.
Now this might be the most incredible fact of them all. Just like us humans, some bird species actually have regional dialects. A sparrow from one part of the country might have a slightly different accent in its song than a sparrow from a few hundred miles away. I mean, that suggests they have vocal learning, maybe even culture, just like we do. How amazing is that?
So, what's the grand prize for winning this birdsong challenge? Well, it isn't really about getting every single answer right. The real reward is that you gain a brand new way to experience the world around you.
So, if you're feeling inspired to go out and actually try this, here are your next steps. It's a simple plan. First, just listen. Try to pinpoint the direction the sound is coming from. Then, see if you can spot the bird and take a mental note of what it looks like. Pay attention to the habitat, too. Is it up high in a tree or down on the ground? And finally, always approach quietly and with respect. These 4 steps will turn you from just a listener into a true observer.
And one last piece of encouragement. When you first start doing this, it might all just sound like a jumble of chirps and whistles, and that is perfectly normal. Just stick with it, because soon enough, that wall of sound will start to separate, and you'll begin to hear the distinct voices of individual birds.
So I guess the only question left is, when you step outside tomorrow morning, what new conversations are you going to overhear? Now you actually have the tools to start finding out. Happy listening.